This is the third gate of Kamasaka Zen, known as Forest Well. This is the third Dharma talk in the series. It's about the importance of ethical and philosophical inquiry. Zen Buddhism is a spiritual tradition that emphasizes direct experience, mindfulness, and the cultivation of wisdom through meditative practice. Rooted in the larger tradition of the Mahayana Buddhism, Zen focuses on the nature of mind, the dissolution of dualistic thinking, and the realization of one's true nature. This is often referred to as our Buddha nature. And it's within this framework the role of ethical and philosophical inquiry is essential. And it's guiding practitioners not only in how they live, but also how they engage with the deeper questions of existence. Now, Zen's approach to ethical and philosophical inquiry, it transcends abstract intellectual speculation, focusing instead on how these inquiries manifest in day-to-day life and day-to-day practices. So it's important to explore the ethical and philosophical inquiry within Zen, examining how these dimensions are integrated into the practice and the ways they shape our path to awareness. So Zen, like other forms of Buddhism, is underpinned by a foundation of ethical principles. That principles that guide the practitioner in their daily conduct. Now, these ethical guidelines are encapsulated in the 5 precepts and the broader framework of the Bodhisattva vows. Now, these precepts and these vows, they are essential to the Mahayana tradition, including Zen. The precepts serve as ethical guidelines for lay practitioners and for monks alike. They include abstaining from killing, abstaining from taking what is not ours and not given, stealing, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from false speech, and abstaining from the ingestion of intoxicants and mind-altering substances. Now these precepts, they're not rigid commandments, but they're seen more as training wheels that foster a mind of compassion and non-harming. So in Zen, following the precepts is a way to cultivate awareness in one's actions and understand our actions, the impact of our actions on others, which is crucial for developing mindfulness and insight. The Bodhisattva vows in Mahayana Buddhism expresses a deep ethical commitment to try and save all beings, all sentient beings, and to work for the benefit of others, even at the cost of one's own enlightenment. So Zen practitioners often recite these vows as a reminder of their ethical responsibility to help alleviate suffering and to bring wisdom to the world. So the ethical inquiry here is not merely about personal salvation, but about a collective well-being, fostering a deeper sense of interconnectedness and responsibility. An in-depth explanation of the 16 Bodhisattva vows will be covered in our next Dharma talk. So in the concept of Zen, ethical inquiry is not limited to understanding what is right and what is wrong in a static sense. Instead, it is about developing a keen awareness of how one's actions will affect others and how ethical conduct can help dissolve the ego. For example, the precept of non-killing, to abstain from the taking of life. It's also about cultivating a mind free of anger and hostility, which can lead to harm. So it's this nuanced approach to ethics that shows the Zen practitioner is always engaged in ethical inquiry as a living process, adapting to circumstances with a sense of mindfulness and especially compassion. Zen is famous for its rejection of theoretical speculation and intellectualization, favouring direct experience over conceptual understanding. But yet this does not mean Zen is without a philosophical depth. On the contrary, Zen draws on profound philosophical inquiries into the nature of reality itself, into the nature of the attainment of Buddhahood, into the nature of the attainment of enlightenment. The apparent contradiction between Zen's anti-intellectual stance and its deep philosophical roots is resolved through, I guess, an understanding that Zen philosophy is meant to be lived, not merely understood intellectually. One of the more philosophical concepts in Zen is the notion of emptiness. Emptiness in Zen refers to the absence of inherent independent existence in all things. It points to the independent and impermanent nature of reality. The philosophical inquiry into emptiness is crucial. It's crucial in Zen because it helps dissolve the illusion of a separate permanent self. And this permanent self, or separate permanent self, is rooted in suffering. It is the root of suffering, the cause of suffering. Now, Zen koans, for example, often probe into the nature of reality, using paradox and non-rational methods simply to help practitioners break through conceptual thinking and experience emptiness directly. Zen also emphasizes the principle of non-duality, the idea that distinctions between self and other, subject and object, good and bad, are ultimately artificial constructs. Philosophical inquiry into non-duality, it challenges the habitual ways of seeing the world, and it helps practitioners cultivate a non-conceptual awareness where dualistic thinking tends to cease. This non-dualistic perspective is at the heart of Zen understanding, where the practitioner realizes, or the practitioner comes to realize, the fundamental unity of all things. So Zen koans are sort of like riddles or paradoxical statements used to trigger deeper insight. But koans are not mere puzzles for the intellectual or for the intellect to try and work out, but are designed to cut through the limitations of conceptual thinking. They engage the practitioner in a form of philosophical inquiry that is experiential rather than purely intellectual. And it's by contemplating these koans that Zen students confront the limitations of language and reason. And this process opens the door to direct experience of reality beyond dualistic thinking. So, in Zen philosophical inquiry, it's not an abstract exercise, but we use it as a practical tool for awakening. It is a way of engaging with the mysteries of existence in a manner that brings about personal transformation. So the goal of philosophical inquiry in Zen is not to arrive at definitive answers, but to cultivate a mind that is open, flexible, and free from attachment to fixed views. Zen's ethical conduct and philosophical insights are not separate pursuits, but they are deeply intertwined. Ethical behaviour provides the foundation for meditation and insight, while philosophical inquiry helps guide ethical decisions. This intersection is most evident in the way Zen emphasizes the unity of wisdom, known as prana, and compassionate action, known as karuna. So, Zen's ethical practice is seen as a prerequisite for wisdom. And without a foundation of ethical conduct, the mind can be clouded by greed, hatred, and delusion, making it difficult to see reality clearly. Ethical conduct purifies the mind and creates the conditions for deep insight into the nature of existence. For example, for example, by practicing the precept of non-harming, the abstaining and taking of life, a Zen practitioner cultivates a mind of peace and compassion, which in turn fosters clarity and insight. Ethical inquiry is thus a form of philosophical inquiry into the nature of suffering. The nature of suffering and how to alleviate it. And this philosophical insight into emptiness and non-duality also inform ethical behaviour. It's a circle. When a practitioner realises the interconnectedness of all beings, the motivation to act ethically arises naturally. The realisation that there is no separate permanent self leads to a deep sense of responsibility. Responsibility for the well-being of others. In this way, philosophical inquiry guides ethical conduct by dissolving the boundaries between self and other, making it clear that to harm another is simply the same as harming oneself. And of course, meditation is the central practice in Zen that unifies the ethical and philosophical inquiry. And it's through the practice of meditation that practitioners can begin to cultivate mindfulness, which allows them to observe their thoughts, their actions, their emotions, and the nature of reality without judgment. So meditation is where ethical conduct and philosophical insight come together in direct experience. Now, in meditation, a practitioner may gain insight into the impermanence of all things. We could call this a philosophical realization. But at the same time, while also developing greater compassion and non-harming. Okay? And this is an ethical transformation. So meditation is the bridge that connects ethical behaviour and philosophical understanding, transforming both of them from being abstract concepts into simply a lived experience. And in the modern context, Zen's emphasis on ethical and philosophical inquiry, it remains profoundly relevant in today's world. A world facing a complex ethical dilemmas such as environmental degradation, such as social inequality, and also our technical advances. Zen offers a framework for addressing these issues with compassion and wisdom. And the ethical principles of non-harming, compassion, and interconnectedness provide a guide for responding to modern challenges, and responding to them in a way that aligns with deeper truths of impermanence and non-self. Moreover, Zen's emphasis on direct experience over intellectualization speaks to a modern audience, that an audience that may feel overwhelmed by the complexities of the philosophical and ethical theories. So Zen offers a way to engage with these inquiries in a direct experiential manner, making them accessible and applicable to everyday life. So to conclude, recap, in Zen, ethical and philosophical inquiry is not an abstract or theoretical pursuit, but is a vital part of the path to awakening. Ethics in Zen provides the foundation for living in harmony with others and oneself, while the philosophical inquiry into the nature of reality challenges the practitioner to see beyond the illusions of things such as duality and permanence. So together, these dimensions create a holistic approach to spiritual practice that can foster wisdom, compassion, and even personal transformation. And by engaging in ethical and philosophical inquiry, Zen practitioners they're not only working towards their own awakening, their own understanding, but also contributing to the well-being of all beings, the well-being of all beings. And it's this commitment to ethical conduct and deep inquiry to the nature of existence. It is what makes Zen a powerful and relevant tradition in both ancient and modern times. The integration of ethics, philosophy, and meditation in Zen, they provide a path that is both practical and profound, offering a way to live a life of wisdom, compassion, and inner peace.